Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. Jack and Lily Sullivan vanished 5 months ago. Now their stepdad Daniel Martell says that cadaver dogs will find nothing on his property. But when we analyse his words, do they clear him or do they expose him?
So are you thinking that the dogs will go in there and won't find anything?
I know for 100% they won't find anything. I mean, that's probably why they waited this long to do it.
Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you're new here, what I do is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words said by the person at the heart of the story. Then I use my process of statement investigation to giving you the key to see where deception could be, where the truth could be, and the motivations of the person talking as well. It's a process that I use with corporate clients, with investigators, and with the media to get a deep understanding of what is being said. So Jack and Lily Sullivan, we've dug into them before. They went missing in Nova Scotia, Canada, 5 months ago at the time of recording. Their mother, Malaya, spoke once and we looked at what she had to say. I wasn't very reassured by that. And Daniel has spoken a lot. He's their stepfather. Haven't been massively reassured by anything Daniel has to say either. He's given a new interview and that is what I'm going to look at in this episode. Since the last time I looked at Daniel, there's been some developments in the case. First of all, some papers were released showing that both Daniel and Malia passed polygraph tests when the police administered them. And then recently it was announced the police are going to use cadaver dogs to search the property around where Malia and Daniel used to live, with the aim, I guess, of finding Jack and Lily or ruling that out as a possibility as to what had happened. Daniel gave an interview talking about the cadaver dogs and some of the wider ranging things around the disappearance of these two children. And that's what I'm going to look at. And what are we going to look at when we look at someone? Well, look, there are suspicions around Daniel. People are suspicious of him. He's going to talk about that in this interview. So I'm going to look at certain things when he talks here. Where's his concern? What is he most concerned about? That will come out in his words. I'm going to look for leakage. So when he's talking, does he leak what he's thinking or what is going on in his head? Maybe things he doesn't want to say out loud, but does he leak that through his words? Can we work out a little bit more about what his thought process is? And then I'm also going to ask, what's missing? What would we expect the stepfather of two very young, very missing children to say that he doesn't say and that he doesn't connect with? So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for those, as well as digging into the words that he uses in this interview. Let's listen to Daniel Martell, and this is the first part of the interview.
So are you thinking that the dogs will go in there and won't find anything?
I know for 100% they won't find anything.
So what do you make of the fact that they are bringing the cadaver dogs in?
Well, I'm actually pretty happy about that because it's been about 3 months. I've been asking for them, and it's just been delayed, I guess, till now. But I know things take time, and dogs are hard to get.
So what does this say to you? Because I mean, they are dogs searching for human remains.
Well, I know that it's going to be really hard work now that there's so much vegetation in the woods. But I'm pretty happy that they're going to be able to do it. I even hope that they bring more than one dog if they have access to more than one dog.
So what are you happy about? What do you hope this will bring?
I would just like to see maybe the social media speculation theories and accusations, maybe they're not going to stop, but slow down, because at this point they're getting ridiculous.
So are you thinking that the dogs will go in there and won't find anything?
I know for 100% they won't find anything. I mean, that's probably why they waited this long to do it. It's just to keep the public informed, I guess, that they're hard at work.
Once more from Daniel Martell, some strange wording. The very first question. So are you thinking that the dogs will go in there and they won't find anything? And he says, I know for 100% they won't find anything. Now, I always say when people talk in absolutes, dig into that. Why are they talking in such absolutes? Life is very rarely black or white. There's all sorts of shades of grey in between. But he seems very certain that the dogs will not find anything, these cadaver dogs. I know for 100% they won't find anything. Very, very, very certain of that. And I want to know how he's so certain of that. You know, he might be trying to give across the impression that It was my land. They aren't going to be anywhere near there. I know that I didn't do anything to them, so they're not going to be found on my land. However, that means he's closed off about anything else that could happen. I know for 100% they won't find anything. I mean, there's another way you could know for 100% they won't find anything, and that's if you know where they are. If you know that the Jack and Lily are nowhere to be found on this land that the dogs are going to search. All these possibilities are up in the air. Why? Because he doesn't say how he knows with 100% certainty that they won't find anything. I did pull out that word anything as well. You know, what are they looking for? It's Jack and Lily, or signs of Jack and Lily, or clues as to what happened to Jack and Lily, I guess. And he just boils that down to they won't find anything. However, that's reflexive. It's in the question. You're thinking that the dogs will go in there and won't find anything. And he says, I know for 100% they won't find anything. Sometimes words that are a bit strange or words that might be a bit suspect are actually almost forced on us by the question that we're asked. And I think that is the case here. The next question he's asked, so what do you make of the fact they're bringing the cadaver dogs in? And he says in his answer, well, I'm actually pretty happy about it, that because it's been about 3 months I've been asking for them, and it's just been delayed, I guess, till now. But I know things take time and dogs are hard to get. So this is the search for his missing stepchildren's children he was presumably close to, spent a lot of time with. And when he's asked about the dogs being brought in and what do you make of it, he talks about what it means to him personally. The concern is for himself there. I'm actually pretty happy about it. Just pretty happy about it. And also happy, strange word there, isn't it? In the context of missing children. I think it's a good thing. Could have been said, but no, he's pretty happy about it. This has made him happy, in his words, about it, because it's been about 3 months I've been asking for them. So this is like, what do you think of the fact cadaver dogs are coming in to look for these missing children? He's happy that cadaver dogs are involved and they're looking for the missing children. Why? Because he's been asking for them for about 3 months. Now that's very strange. Why would the stepfather of 2 missing children be asking for cadaver dogs? That sounds like, again, what does he know? Why is he asking for cadaver dogs? That just sounds like all sorts of strange to me. But he says in his words, I've been asking for them for about 3 months. And then he goes into the technicalities of them. He's, very, very interested in the technicalities of actually everything about this investigation, as we'll see. It's been delayed again, but I know things take time and dogs are hard to get. So look, is he really just going again with the concern for himself? Because he knows that these cadaver dogs are going to come, look around the property where, I don't know if he still lives there or if he used to live there, but it's the property where he was living when the children went missing. He's 100% certain they're not going to find anything. Therefore, he will be further in the clear. That seems to be his priority here. That's why he wanted the cadaver dogs. It's not about finding Jack and Lily to him. It's about clearing his name. So what does this say to you? And I think the interviewer picked up here that they didn't get a very satisfactory answer to the question there. You know, what does it mean that cadaver dogs are coming in? I think they were looking for a little bit more emotion, sadness, drama, anything like that. So tries again. So what does that say to you? Because, I mean, these dogs are searching for human remains. And he says, well, I know that it's going to be really hard work now that there's so much vegetation in the woods, but I'm pretty happy that they're going to be able to do it. I even hope that they bring more than one dog if they have access to more than one dog. So he doesn't answer the question. The question is, what does it say to you that they're bringing in dogs that are searching for human remains? And he avoids that entirely. He avoids the human remains part of that question. Again, he restates that he is pretty happy. And then once again, he goes into the technicals of the investigation about it being hard to do because there's so much vegetation in the woods. It's going to be really hard work now. But he hopes they bring more than one dog if they have access to more than one dog. Guy loves counting things. We'll notice as we go through, he loves putting numbers on things and the size of things as well. But he doesn't answer the question that was designed to get an emotional response. Human remains. And these human remains could be your stepchildren. He doesn't answer that question. He avoids that question. So he's used the word happy twice now, and the interviewer goes for that. So what are you happy about? What do you hope this will bring? And he says, I would just like to see maybe the social media speculation theories and accusations, they're not going to stop, but slow down. Because at this point, they're getting ridiculous. So Once more, his concern is for himself. These cadaver dogs are coming in and he's talking about them, but he shows no concern for Jack and Lily, nothing at all around hoping that they will be found, or even hoping that it will rule out an area of search so they can search further afield or search in different places. No, what you're happy about is that the social media speculation and theories and accusations, they might slow down. So his priority is that social media speculation, not the missing children. Interesting though, and it maybe lets us in on something here, he certainly states it as wanting the social media speculation to die down, not the police suspicion or anything like that, that's maybe happening or maybe not happening, but directly he wants social media speculation to die down. He also talks about it being at this point is getting pretty ridiculous. I thought it had calmed down a lot. It's been 5 months. There was an initial frenzy, which was lots of people saying, this guy looks dodgy, this guy has something to hide. Me saying some of his answers don't satisfy us. His priority is the media speculation, which at this point is they're getting ridiculous. They weren't ridiculous before. What's happening now that makes it ridiculous? Is it the fact that he hoped that he could weather the storm and that the speculation around him would die down after a while, and it still hasn't died down? And he's been asking for 3 months for these cadaver dogs to help get this speculation to die down. The interviewer says to him, so are you thinking that the dogs will go in there and won't find anything? And he says, with certainty again, I know for 100% they won't find anything. We've got that anything again, which is in response to the question, but it's that certainty. I know for 100% they won't find anything. I mean, that's probably why they waited this long to do it. It's just to keep track of, it's just to keep the public informed, I guess, that they're hard at work. Now, this shows to me that there's some tension going on with law enforcement, that he sees them doing this to show the public that they are hard at work. They're doing something he thinks is maybe futile, but it's performative. He thinks the law enforcement will be out there with the cadaver dogs to show they're hard at work. Now, I'm not entirely sure that's how law enforcement operates. They are going there with cadaver dogs for a reason. I don't know what the reason is because I'm not law enforcement. I'm not Canadian law enforcement. But he thinks that they're wanting to keep the public informed that they're hard at work. And you'll notice he uses one of my favourite or least favourite words, just. It's just to keep the public informed, I guess, that they're hard at work. So he's not saying this with anywhere near the amount of certainty of, I know for 100% they won't find anything. He's not 100% sure why the police are out there with the cadaver dogs. But I spot some tension between him and law enforcement in there. So in that first part, his priority is anything that takes the heat off him. You can see that. He wants the social media speculation to die down. He's been asking for ages to get these cadaver dogs out there. When he's asked about the human remains, he dodges that entirely because his priority is anything that takes the heat off him. You'll also note there's some signs that he's close to the investigation. He knows about the number of dogs that are coming. He wants more dogs coming. He knows what seems to know what law enforcement are thinking a little bit. He seems to be sticking himself very close to the technicalities of the investigation, but he is sure, he's certain for some reason, in his words, that the children are not on the land that will be searched. Now, he seems really, really closed-minded about the possibilities here, doesn't he? He seems really closed-minded, and we will see more of that as this interview goes on, and we will ask why. Why is Daniel Martell so closed-minded about the possibilities?
Do you think it will rule things out?
Yeah, I think we'll rule a lot of things out. We'll rule out that the RCMP are, working hard, and there's no human remains on the property.
Is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, like, what if they do find something?
No, because I didn't do anything. I know Malaya didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything. Those are 3 people on the property. I mean, after the polygraph exams, they should have known right there. We didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids.
Why do you think that they're not possibly, why that they didn't possibly wander into the woods?
Well, with the amount of resources that were used, and I mean, for everything from drones to helicopters to classified technology and all the searchers on the ground. I mean, searchers on bicycles. They did everything. On the pipeline, they took in ATVs and Argos and side by sides. They used everything they could.
Tell me about, what do you make at this point of the investigation of what RCMP have been doing or not doing? What's your stance on all of that?
Well, I would like to go in for another whole round of polygraph exams. I mean, that would be, and maybe bring some new people in that are doing the polygraph exams. But I know they're hard at work. I've filled notebooks with just trying to help them find leads or give them any kind of small detail, answer as many questions as I can, or but I'm doing everything I can. I usually try to meet with them 3 times a week, and sometimes they're not around for that, or phone calls or texts, but whatever we can do.
So in that section there, Daniel is asked, do you think it will rule things out? He says, yeah, I think it will rule a lot of things out. Rule out that the RCMP are, working hard and there's no human remains on the property. A baffling answer. Do you think it will rule things out? Yeah, I think it will rule a lot of things out. So yes, I think it will rule a lot of things out. Fine. Rule out that the RCMP are, working hard. So he thinks that by doing this, then that will rule out that they are working hard. I think it's a huge misspeak there. I think he says the first thing there is to say it will show that they are working hard, or that they're, slacking and not doing a lot. It will rule that out. But it's just a very strange thing to say. And once more, he's mentioning the investigation. RCMP are, working hard. He's very, very aware of the investigation. If you know anything about criminal profiling, you will know that some criminals love to stay as close to the investigation as they can. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I am asking the question, why is he so hung up on the investigative steps and the technicalities inside the investigation? It will rule out that the RCMP are, working hard, and there's no human remains on the property. Once again, that complete certainty that there are no human remains on the property. At least this time he's talking about human remains and he's taken it on. But once more, he doesn't say how he knows that. He seems very close-minded about that. Look, what he could be saying, and maybe what he wants to get across, is I know there's no human remains on the property because these children were not killed anywhere near the property. We've searched, we've looked, there are no remnants of anything around this property. However, there could be, even if he's not involved. These things could still have happened. There could be things that the cadaver dogs would find that would help find Jack and Lily. And yet, no, he's just really adamant there's no human remains on the property. He's very fixed, very certain on that, and not open to a lot of new ideas there. Is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, like, what if they do find something? And he says no. And then he kind of laughs. I didn't do anything. I know Malaya didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything. Now, he's not asked if he did anything. He's not asked if Malaya did anything, which is the children's mom, his ex-partner, and I know my mother didn't do anything. No, because I didn't do anything. Is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, what if they do find something, and the only thing that's in his head is the fact that he, Malaya, or the mom didn't do anything. They're the only 3 people that could have done anything that would lead to stuff being found on the property. That's very strange. I do not get the logic that he's going with there. He says those are the 3 people on the property. I mean, after the polygraph exams, they should have known right there we didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids, so let's dig into that. Those are the 3 people on the property. But what if someone else was on the property and did something? Why are you so fixed in that? I don't know. Are you trying to convince us that it could only have been these 3 people? There was no one external involved or anything like that? Or is it something that's there to distract us? I mean, after the polygraph exams, they should have known right there that we didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids. Now, we have the word kill there, which is not downplaying what could have happened if human remains were found. The kids would have been killed. Normally, we find guilty people softening the severity, didn't do anything to the kids, didn't do that to the kids, softer ways of saying kill. But he uses quite a strong word there. It's a green flag, if you like, of we didn't kill, we didn't kill. However, we didn't kill any of the kids. Any of the kids, these are your 2 stepchildren. Jack and Lily are their names. You're not using them. And just any of the kids, that is really, really strange. We didn't kill, again, the kids. Again, he doesn't use their name. Now, if you look at the question that was asked, is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, like, what if they didn't do something? He goes extra. He says no. There's no part of him that is preparing himself for that, but then he tells us why. He goes extra. And when someone goes extra, it's always very revealing. It shows what they want to say, what they want to get across. Even though I haven't been asked about it, I'm going to talk about this because I want to get it across. And what does he want to get across? That I didn't do anything. Malaya didn't do anything. My mother didn't do anything. Those are the three people in the property. After the polygraph exams, he wants to know that the polygraph exams have been fine. They should have known right there, we didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids. Very strange wording. He does answer the question, but the logic, no one else. Also, no accident, so we didn't do anything, but, you know, could something have happened to the kids when they were out there? None of these reasonable alternatives seem to be in his mind. Only that the kids were killed on the property, or the kids weren't killed on the property, is what he seems to be very, very certain of. The next question. Why do you think that they're not possibly like, why that they didn't possibly wander into the woods? And he says, well, with the amount of resources that were used, and I mean for everything from drones to helicopters to classified technology and all the searchers on the ground, I mean searchers on bicycles, I mean they did everything. It doesn't quite finish the thought off of saying there was so much searching done and nothing was found. I don't believe they did just wander into the woods and something happened to them or they got stuck there or anything like that. He doesn't finish that thought off. It's the impression he wants to give, but he doesn't say it. It's not in his mind to say the end point of all of that. What we just have is, again, a focus on the investigation. The amount of resources that were used. He likes counting things, so amount is a counting word. I mean, everything from drones to helicopters to classified technology. All the searches on the ground. I mean, searches on bicycles. I mean, they did everything. On the pipeline, they took in ATVs and Argos and side-by-sides. They used everything that they could. Great knowledge on the technology that was used. Less knowledge about actually finding your kids that are missing. Lots on the tech as well, but he doesn't finish the thought. He really doesn't say, I don't think they wandered into the woods because they would have been found. With everything that was done for the search, we would have found them by now. The next question. Tell me about what do you make at this point of the investigation of what RCMP have been doing or not doing? What's your stance on all of that? He doesn't answer that question. He says, well, I would like for them to go in for another whole round of polygraph exams. I mean, that would be, and maybe bring in some new people that are doing the polygraph exams. But I know they're hard at work. So he is saying at the very end there, they are hard at work. But in this investigation, which is about finding two very young missing children and what happened to them. And if something did happen to them, who's responsible for that happening to them? What he wants is a polygraph exam. Bringing new people doing polygraph exams. Is that for him? Again, is he wanting to do another whole round of polygraph exams? As far as we know, it was only him, Malaya, and the mother that got polygraph exams. So is he wanting more polygraph exams? This is all about clearing him. This is his sole priority, is clearing him. This is why he's happy the cadaver dogs are searching around the property. So in all of this investigation to find two missing children, what do you want them to do? More polygraph exams of me. This is all about clearing him, not finding the kids. Or does he think someone is lying in all of that? Because of all the people that have done polygraphs, I only know of the three. Maybe there was another one. Potentially the children's natural father had a polygraph exam. But does he think someone is lying in their polygraph exams and has got away with it? And that's why he wants another round of polygraph exams done by someone else, because he thinks that will get the truth out there. Because maybe that would be a nicer priority. Maybe that's how he thinks is we're going to find out what happened to Jack and Lily if they do more polygraph tests and find that someone is lying. But it does seem to me that the focus is on him. And he goes extra. Because, you know, this has been asked about what are the police doing or what are the police not doing. And he tells us what he's done. I mean, I filled notebooks with just trying to help them find leads. So trying implies no success. Help them find leads. Help them find the children. Give them as many kind of small detail, answer as many questions as they can. So again, it's not just answer every single question, it's answer as many questions as they can. I'm doing everything I can. And then he says, I usually try to meet with them 3 times a week. So usually and try implies that he doesn't meet with them 3 times a week. He usually tries to meet them 3 times a week. That's not even saying I try to meet them 3 times a week, or I usually meet them 3 times a week. It's I usually try to meet with them 3 times a week. Sometimes they're not around for that, or phone calls or texts, but whatever we can do. So this is all slightly qualified, but look again at how close he wants to stick to the investigation. So in that part there, that second part, he doesn't seem to be too focused on finding the kids. In fact, he seems to be more worried about clearing himself, taking the speculation away from himself again. I'm still picking up tension between him and law enforcement as well. However, he does talk in severe terms about the potential fate of the kids. Now, at one point he did say, I didn't do anything. However, he did talk about the possibility of them being killed, which is a reassuring factor to me. Now, listen, Daniel has said that he welcomes this search with the cadaver dogs, but I think there's something worrying him about it, and we'll look at that in just a moment. Now, do you ever feel like you are not being told the full truth? You're not hearing the full story? Could be happening here, yeah? Well, this is what this channel is all about. It's about hearing the world with new ears, and I want to share this with as many people as possible. So please, if you like this, if you share it with people that you know would need it, subscribe to the channel, comment underneath. Every single interaction you can take like that fuels the fire for Never a Truer Word and helps this get out to more people. So just every single click, every single share, every subscribe, every follow helps this get out to more people. And this really is something I hear from people regularly saying, you know what? I watched one of your episodes, heard from a relative, and I went, they are talking to me big time, full of lies. So thank you very much for some of the things that you spoke about. So please, if you do think this is worth sharing with people, please share it. But even if it's just the like button, even if it's dropping a comment saying, yeah, I really like this, that helps this get out to more people and helps get this life-changing skill out to more people around the world. Let's get some more from Dan Martell now.
So I guess to bring it back to the cadaver dogs, since you've been asking for it for so long, I guess, you don't have any information on how that will happen?
No, I don't even know where quite they're going to start searching or what they're going to do. Are they going to expand out onto the properties? The property there is fairly small. It's only 2 acres. So.
Yeah. Will it be the whole 8.5 that they searched previously?
I don't know. That's a lot. That's a lot. That would be quite a few. That'd be a couple weeks probably on foot doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the documents, and you know some of the other stuff RCMP has said or done, there's 70,000 drone photos that were taken during the search. That's a lot of photos. I mean, they had to review and do everything. So they would have found some kind of something there. Or even when they brought in classified technology, they scanned the whole area. They found a beaver and a coyote. That's all they found.
So why do you think this step is necessary?
Well, it just rules out one and brings the book a little bit closer to being closed. I mean, one chapter at a time.
How have you been doing?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm doing well, but doing better than I was at the start, I guess. It's physically exhausting, mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting, but every day you wake up and it's a new day. New hope. And just keep going forward.
I don't know about you, but I found some of that slightly dark. Let's dig into it. The question is, so I guess to bring it back to the cadaver dogs, you've been asking for it for so long. I guess, you don't have any information on how that will happen? He says, no, I don't. I don't even know where quite they're going to start searching or where they're going to do. Are they going to expand out onto other properties? The property is fairly small. It's only 2 acres. So no, I don't is a very honest answer to the question. No, I don't. He's asked, do you know what's going to happen? He says, no, I don't. And the rest of his answer shows that. I don't have any information where they're going to start or where they're going to do, or are they going to expand out onto the properties? The property is fairly small. It's only 2 acres. So, and he doesn't finish that thought. So despite the fact that he's got no information, he's got some questions. That questions are they going to expand out onto other properties? The interviewer says, will it be the whole 8.5 that they will search? And he says, I don't know. Again, an indication of a truthful answer, just straightforward, I don't know. And then he says, that's a lot. That would be quite a few. That'd be a couple of weeks probably, doing on foot, doing that. He's got no enthusiasm for the big search. He's quite happy, pretty happy to have this search done with the cadaver dogs in a narrow area. You'll notice that one of the first things he focuses on when where they go to search is it just this 2 acres or is it going to be wider? That's a lot. There'll be a couple of weeks probably doing it on foot, doing that. So no enthusiasm for the big search. And then he goes away and he talks about something else when he's asked about this big search over the whole 8 acres. But I mean, if you look at the documents and, you know, some of the other stuff RCMP has said or done, there's 70,000 drone photos that were taken during the search. That's a lot of photos. Yes, it is, because you like counting, Daniel. 70,000 drone photos that have been taken during the search. That's a lot of photos. I mean, they had time to review and do everything, so they would have found some kind of something there. Now, again, he's not quite finishing his thought off here. I know what he wants to say. They've taken 70,000 photos of the area. They would have found something in all those photos if they've looked at them all properly. But he doesn't finish that thought off. He just throws numbers at us to make us seem like this has been big and this has been thorough. They had 70,000 photos, drone photos that were taken during the search. That's a lot of photos. Yes, it is, but you don't tell us what it means. I mean, they had to review and do everything. Again, it's very vague. So they would have found some kind of something there. Some kind of something? Again, these are 2 young children that are missing and you're boiling this down, this search for them down to some kind of something, not something important, some sort of evidence, signs of them, anything like that, just some kind of something. Even when they brought in classified technology, again, so close to the investigation and the tech, classified technology. They scanned the whole area. They found a beaver and a coyote. That's all they found. So he's asked, why do you think this step is necessary? And he says, well, it just rules out one and brings the book a little closer to being closed. I mean, 1 chapter at a time. So he says this search is going to rule out one. Again, we've got this certainty with him, certainly in this 2 acre area, that nothing will be found. But there's a very final feeling there. This is the dark thing. It brings the book a little closer to be closed. I mean, what is he talking about there? Because what he's saying is, rules out one, rules out him, and then the book will be closed. It's not they'll rule this out and then that means they've got new investigations to do, new areas to look at or anything like that. It's just this book is a little bit closer to being closed. It's as if 1 chapter at a time, he cannot wait for this investigation to finally finish. Even if it's, we haven't found them, it's cold case now, we can't do anything. That's what these words feel like. It's a very final feeling, talking about the book being closed. He wants this over. He doesn't really care about whether we get closer to finding the children or closer to finding what happens to them. Then he's asked, how have you been doing? And he says, well, I'm not going to say I'm doing well, but I'm doing better than I was at the start, I guess. It's physically exhausting, mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting, but every day is just, you wake up and it's a new day, new hope, just keep going forward. Now you'll notice that he does start talking about himself. I'm not going to say I'm doing well, but I'm better than I was at the start, I guess. And then he doesn't talk about himself. It's physically exhausting. He doesn't say to who. It's mentally exhausting. He doesn't say to who. Emotionally exhausting. He doesn't say for who. But every new day is just, you wake up, not he wakes up, and it's a new day, new hope. He doesn't say who has the hope. Just keep going forward. He doesn't talk about who is going forward. Just listen to the answer again. How are you doing? I'm not going to say I'm doing well, but doing better than I was at the start, I guess. It's physically exhausting, mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting, but every day is just, you wake up and it's a new day, new hope, just keep going forward. So he doesn't talk about himself after the I guess. The exhausting part of it is all straightforward. You know, like he's not trying to over-convince us or oversell us that he's exhausted. I believe that he may be exhausted, but he's not really taking any ownership of any of this. Also, when someone says what's not happening, I'm not going to say I'm doing well. The opposite is often true. So actually thinking, I'm doing all right at the moment, which might be all right. I know I don't have any missing children. So, 5 months afterwards, it might be all right to feel that you're doing okay. But here in this part, the theme continues. Very close to the investigation, detailed knowledge of that investigation, but no hope of finding kids. One last part to look at with Daniel Martell, and I want you to look at who he's concerned about now. Because obviously it would be Jack and Lily, the missing kids, right? Have a listen.
Tell me about the toll, like what you were just mentioning earlier about social media.
Yeah, social media has been quite a circus, we'll call it. But I can't control them, and they're free to judge. But maybe just use a little bit of this before they start typing or using AI for pictures.
I mean, we're coming up on, is it coming up to 5 months?
Yeah, in the second, so yeah, it's less than 2 weeks.
Like, did you ever imagine that we'd be here still talking about this?
No. I thought with the amount of resources and amount of different units for RCMP working on it, everything from dive teams to canine units and social, they have dedicated teams just for social media. They have a dedicated guy that just sits there and watches highway cameras. So.
What's it been like for you now that we're back to September, school's back, and seeing the school bus go by every day?
Yeah, no, it's hard. There's quite a few school buses that go by, and there's a lot of kids in the area I see, and it's sad. It's not just sad for Jack and Lily, but it's sad for everybody who knew Jack and Lily. They had friends, went to school, and it's just, they had teachers that seen them every day, and it's just hard on everybody.
I know we ask you this every single time, but why do you keep doing it?
For Jack and Lily. I don't do this for myself because I'm going to see this online later and people are going to analyze it. Every time I move my hands, every time I open my mouth, every facial expression, they analyze everything right down to a T. I know that.
What would you like the public to know?
I want the public to know if anyone has any information, just please come forward. Call the RCMP, call your local police department, call Crime Stoppers.
Do you still think they're still alive?
Yes, I hope so. I mean, that's all we have is hope.
The first question in that segment, tell me about the toll, like what you were just mentioning earlier about social media. Daniel says, yeah, social media has been quite a circus, we'll call it, but I can't control them and they're free to judge. But maybe just use a little bit of this before they start typing or using AI for pictures. So once more, the concern is for himself, not for the missing children. He does answer the question. To be fair, he's asked about the toll of social media. But in fact, he doesn't actually talk about the toll, does he? He says, social media has been a circus. I can't control them. They're free to judge. Maybe use a little bit of this before they start typing or using AI for pictures. So he doesn't talk about the toll on himself. He doesn't say how hard it is to see all this speculation about himself. Instead, he talks about what social media has done, what social media is doing. But certainly no concern, though, for the missing children. You know, that could have been turned around and said, I wish people would put much more energy into trying to find the children than trying to pull me apart on social media. I mean, we're coming up on, is it up to 5 months? He's asked, he says, yeah. On the second, yeah, it's less than 2 weeks. Like, did you ever imagine that we'd still be here, still talking about this? He says no. So he's asked a yes, no question. Did you ever imagine? And he says no. So he really thought this would have been over quicker. I believe that. I thought with the amount of resources and the amount of different units for RCMP working on it and everything from dive teams to canine units and social, they have dedicated teams just for social media. They have a dedicated guy that just sits there and watches highway cameras. So... Now, he doesn't finish the thought. He doesn't say, I thought with all these resources, we would have found the children by now, or we would have found what happened to them. He doesn't finish the thought again. What he does is, once more, he lists all the things that have been thrown at the search. So the amount of different units from RCMP, the dive teams, the canine units, the social, the teams dedicated just for social media, a dedicated guy that just sits there and watches highway cameras. Now, this is all irrelevant to the question. Did you ever think we'd still be talking about this? No. Maybe he could have done no, because with the amount of resources that were there, I thought this would all be done and dusted within a week, 2 weeks or something like that. But he doesn't finish that thought. He's just really, really aware of the amount of resources that are being employed by law enforcement to find these children. Also, he's the stepdad of these two missing kids. He shows no thanks for the amount of work that has been done by RCMP and all law enforcement to find these two kids. I mean, he's mentioned a lot, 70,000 drone photos, drones, classified technology, polygraph tests, a man on a bike, loads of searches, canine units, dive teams, the man watching highway cameras. He doesn't once thank them for any of that. He doesn't seem grateful and express any gratitude for the work that is being done to find these children. who are important to him. The next question, what's it been like now for you now we're back to September, school's back, and like seeing the school bus go every day? He says, yeah, I know it's hard. There's quite a few school buses that go by, and there's a lot of kids in the area I see, and sad. And he doesn't say who it's sad for at that point. He just says, see and sad. And then he says, it's not just sad for Jack and Lily, but it's sad for everybody who knew Jack and Lily. Now, here he has mentioned their names. And that's reassuring to me that finally he's mentioned their names, and he mentions them twice. And he does say it's sad for them. He's, aware that there is some sadness for them. But then he goes on to talk about other people, way more detail than he talks about Jack and Lily. They had friends. They had went to school, and they had teachers that they've seen them every day, and it's just hard on everybody. So the concern is there, not just sad for Jack and Lily, but then he draws it out and expands it away from the family and from Jack and Lily, and he goes very external, talking about the feelings that exist beyond, because he's not talking about the feelings for him or talking about the feelings for his ex-partner Malia. Friends, teachers, everybody, it's hard on them. So he starts very close, but he goes external, wide, very, very quickly. I know we ask you this every single time, but why do you keep doing this? He says, for Jack and Lily. I don't do this for myself because I'm going to see this online later and people are going to analyse it every time I move my hands and every time I open my mouth. Who would do that? And every facial expression that they analyse right down to a T, I know that. So once again, a slight reassuring factor because he leads with Jack and Lily. Why do you keep doing it? And he says, for Jack and Lily. But then his expansion, once more, is not about Jack and Lily. It's about himself. I don't do this for myself. Now, when someone tells you why they're not doing something, when someone states something in the negative, the opposite is often true. Is he doing this for himself? I mean, everything I've seen in his words so far says his main concern is clearing himself. I don't do this for myself because I'm going to see this online later and people are going to analyse it every time I move my hands, every time I open my mouth, every facial expression that they analyse, everything right down to a T. I know that. I can't make this clear enough. He does say Jack and Lily at the start, but the expansion is on himself. He spends way more time talking about himself and what will happen to him as a result of this interview. Interesting, does he just misuse the expression? But he talks about, they analyse it every time I move my hands, every time I open my mouth, every facial expression, they analyse everything right down to a T. Now, if you've got something to a T, it means you've got it right. He got that impression down to a T. You have done this meal to a T, perfect to a T. That's what down to a T means, is it's done correctly. Now, maybe he doesn't know that, and he means they're very, precise, pernickety. They go down into the smallest detail. Maybe that's what he means by right down to a T, but the phrase means they do it perfectly. They get it right. I know that, he finishes with. What would you like the public to know? And he says, I want the public to know if anyone has any information, please come forward. Call the RCMP, call your local police department, call Crime Stoppers. Now, this is a big deviation from everything we've seen so far, almost by the patterns that we've seen. What would you like the public to know? I would be expecting him to go, I didn't do anything. It wasn't me. Don't go on social media and talk about me anymore. But no, he shows a desire for information. I want the public to know if anyone has any information, then please come forward, call the RCMP, call your local police department, call Crime Stoppers. He seems really open to any information being delivered to the police, to the local police departments, to Crime Stoppers as well. And this was a big reassuring fact. And towards the end of this interview, once he's got out all the stuff that he feels stressed about, the speculation, how happy he is with this cadaver search, the concern for himself. Once that has all seemed to be got out of him, we've had him mentioning Jack and Lily by name and saying he's sad and acknowledging that it's very sad. And here he's saying he's open to people coming forward to the police with information. I really thought, what would you like the public to know? We would get that pattern repeated again of concern for self, but he doesn't have it here. It's a reassuring factor. Do you think they're still alive? He says, yes, I hope so. I mean, that's all we have is hope. So there, some reassuring things. Mentioning the kids by name was reassuring. Asking for people to get in touch with the police with info was reassuring. But also that part where he was asked about Jack and Lily and he showed concern for others before the kids. He's shown concern for himself before he showed any concern for the kids. And then when he showed concern for Jack and Lily, he then went on to widen it really quickly, right away from Jack and Lily to teachers, friends, everyone as well. And that worried me. So that's Daniel Martell's new interview. What do I have from that? Look, he certainly is so sure that they're not going to find anything in this the cadaver dog search of the immediate area. It seems real. He seems to really, really believe that. But only the immediate area. When we talk about widening it out, he gets a little bit nervous. Have they roamed into the woods or the forest? He gets a little bit nervous. Are they going to go out to the 8 acres? He gets a little bit nervous. He seems to be convinced near what he would term the property. Absolute surety there. But he seems closed-minded about so many possibilities. It could only have been the 3 people on the property that did anything to them on the property. He doesn't seem to really want to talk about how this could rule out him and get people searching in another way. This is all. He doesn't seem to be open-minded to possibilities at all. From all of that, I think he knows more about what happened to Jack and Lily than he says in that interview. I really do believe that. Did he make it happen himself? Or does he know about someone else's involvement? I'm drawn to that comment about wanting the polygraphs and more polygraphs. The only 2 reasons he could want more polygraphs are to make himself look more in the clear. But look, as we know the facts anyway, he seems to be pretty much in the clear. He passed the polygraph, so another polygraph isn't going to make him more in the clear, which would seem to be his want. So does he think that someone else who could take a polygraph will be caught lying in this situation? I wonder if that's what's going on. So look, he knows more, in my opinion. He knows more about what happened to Jack and Lily. But did he make it happen himself? Or does he know about someone else's involvement? I lean more towards that latter thing. And what do you think? Do let me know in the comments here if you can, or you can go to neveratruerword.com and get in touch on the socials. Also on neveratruerword.com, you'll find a lot more about the missing kids, Jack and Lily Sullivan. More breakdowns with Daniel. Also some episodes looking at what the mum said about those missing kids as well. That's all at neveratruerword.com. And if you want to widen your knowledge of how to look at people's words, why not sign up for the newsletter there as well? neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.